I got an email from somebody asking about what we're going to do on this course and whether he should join or not. And he listed a number of his requirements, what he wanted. So I told him not to come, that it didn't seem to be for him. Because I could see that he was trying to establish an alternate identity. He was trying to make himself into something that he thinks he's not. So I told him, you know, this is really not for you. I got involved with spiritual life and spiritual things probably while I was still in high school. So I've been doing this quite a while, maybe 60 years or more. And I'm just beginning to understand that it's not about trying to achieve one particular feeling or trying to get one particular experience. It's much greater than that and much more subtle than that also. We're trying to find a way to live in this world as we are. No matter how much we try, we're never going to be somebody else. Believe me, I tried. We're always going to be ourselves. And we're always going to have whatever issues we have to deal with. The question is, how do we deal with these issues that cause us suffering, that don't let us be happy? And how do we find who and what we really are? When I was with my guru in India, he never told us to meditate. He never told us to do spiritual practices. And especially, he never told us to do spiritual practices for the sake of our own enlightenment. We asked him, how do you find God? He said, serve people. What? What? What's he talking about? Okay, how do you raise Kundalini? He said, feed people. His basic teaching was love everyone, serve everyone, and remember God. And I remember thinking at the time, well, I guess we're not qualified for the real teachings. But it turns out that those are the real teachings. And the depth of those teachings has been slowly but surely understood by me over many years of practice, of chanting, of going through hells and heavens and living in this world, which is not so easy. So I'm going to be inviting you into this space where you can just be who you are, where you can let go of trying to be something else and someone else or somewhere else. And so we can learn, we can open up to the love that lives within us right now as who we really are. Underneath our thoughts, our emotions, underneath all the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. And then we judge ourselves. So how do we move more deeply into ourself? And that's a capital S self. Our true nature, which is called many different things in many different traditions. The soul, Buddha nature, the one. In India, there's so many different names for that place. All the different traditions have names for that. The Father, Allah. They're all the names of the same thing. And that is what lives within us as our true self already. Without that, we're not here. This body is just an inert mass. And without consciousness and energy, which comes from our soul, the body is nothing. And when that soul leaves the body, next. So, one of the definitions of meditation and chanting and practice is to become familiar. Become familiar with what it is and who we are already. There was one time in my life where I was doing a lot of meditation. And I had this closet where I'd go into and I'd close the door and I'd light a candle and lit the incense and puffed up my pillow and then sit down and think. And one day I walked in there, closed the door, lit the candle, lit the incense, and as I was sitting down, before my ass hit the pillow, I laughed out loud because I saw what I was doing. The motive behind the practice I was supposedly trying to do was to try to create a me that I could like. A me that I could like. Why? Because I hated myself. I had a lot of self-loathing, self-hatred, self-judgment, self-limiting judgments, more, on and on. And I thought that if I meditated enough, I could get away from all that and create a beautiful me that I could love. So, if self-hatred is the motive, what could be the result? Only more self-hatred, or at least self-judging, self-loathing. Another time I was sitting with Maharaji, and this is Maharaji, by the way, Neem Karoli Baba. This is Siddhima, his great disciple. And I'll introduce you to the rest of the family as we go along. One time I was sitting with Maharaji and I saw that I was waiting for something to happen. I was waiting for him to touch me or something, and that I would go into samadhi and I'd be somewhere else. And I recognized that it was exactly the opposite of that. That I was here and that I was always here, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing. And there was no place else to be, ever. And the reason I thought that I would be gone is because once again, I didn't like myself. I didn't like my stuff. I was too neurotic. I was too depressed. I was too needy, whatever. And so I felt that enlightenment had to be somewhere else. It's not like that. It's the opposite. It's right here, all the time. But we are not paying attention. Our thoughts, our emotions, and everything we see and feel and imagine and hear, all our consciousness is directed, looking outward. Information is coming in from the so-called outside world. And that's where we live, looking through all these windows all the time. And we never notice that we're sitting inside the house. So if we want to know what's going on in the house, we have to look around in here. All the practices we do, whatever the practice is, ultimately, it allows us to let go of our identification and let go of the stuff of the outside world, including our thoughts. And it thins out the glue that holds us to our thoughts and emotions and our self-image and the stories we tell ourselves. We're glued to that stuff. And there's no space in there. We believe everything we think. And we think that's normal. Well, maybe for most people that's normal, but that's, for the great beings, thoughts are just like whoosh, flowing through the sky. They don't grab you. So all these practices really train us to release those thoughts and emotions, release those negative feelings in that moment. And that trains us. That's kind of a, you know, like if you want to learn to play an instrument, you have to play the scales, you have to learn what's going on. Your fingers get used to doing something. You don't have to think about it. They'll play the right chord, the right position. And so that's what happens. The time we put in every day in our formal practice, whatever that is, that reverberates throughout our day. And it moves with us through our day. And it keeps calling us home, calling us back from dreamland as we go through our days. So we're going to do a bunch of practices over these next 4 sessions. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about those practices and the ideas behind them, how they work. And after the 4 sessions, hopefully we'll have a better idea of where we're headed and how that will be when we get there, which is here. So let's sing a little bit. We'll sing some, I'll read some stuff to you, and then we'll have some questions, and then we'll sing some more. Or we'll do some japa meditation and that kind of thing. So, I always start pretty much anytime I do anything, I start with this one invocation. I call it an invocation to the love that lives within us as who we truly are. And in India, of course, this is known as an invocation to Hanuman, the monkey god, because that is who Hanuman is. He is the love that lives within us as who we truly are. So, then we'll sing Hare Rama Rama Rama, Sita Rama Rama Rama, Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram. So, the instructions are very simple for this practice. Now that doesn't mean it's easy, but simple. You sing, you pay attention when you're singing, you hear yourself, and you listen to me when I lead, and then you respond. So you have it's possible if you're paying attention to have a full circle of awareness before the next round starts. You probably notice that you don't get very far along that circle before you're thinking of something else. But that's perfectly normal. That's exactly where we are. So you sing, and when you notice that you've been gone and not paying attention or thinking about something else, you just come back to the chanting, to the sound of the chanting, the sound of the names that we're singing. What we're chanting is called in India the names of God. The divine name, the names of that love. So, So don't try too hard. Just be with the sounds. And when you notice that you haven't been present, that you've been dreaming or thinking of something else, or anything like, what is he singing? This is stupid, this is boring, I can't stand this, how long does this go on? You just come back to the chanting. Again and again and again and again.